Hello and welcome to another Pre-Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we're having a Chiro student connection out at Parker with Brooks Hill, soon to be chiropractor. Um, Soon to be Dr. Brooks Hill, can you kind of just get us started by reflecting on where you were at in life when you decided you wanted to become a chiropractor, and what was it that attracted you to this profession?
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Glass, for having me on. It's an honor, and I love what you're doing with Pre Chiro. I think it is such a needed outlet for students, and it's actually one of the reasons why I even started up my Instagram page, which we can talk a little bit more about in the future. But how I got into chiropractic, I was a freshman in college at Texas A&M University, and I was in the business school. And I knew I did not want to do accounting or finance. So I was very clear about that. But I didn't really have a clear direction or a clear goal on where I was heading. So I figured that marketing would be a happy medium for me since it seemed creative. Both my parents are in the corporate world. So that was kind of the path that I was on, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was approaching spring break of my freshman year, I started to feel like the Lord was just kind of tugging on my heart a little bit. Like, you're good here for now, but long term, this isn't where you'll be. Keep your feet moving, keep going, but we've got a different plan for you. And I started to become more interested in healthcare in general. Now, growing up, I never saw a chiropractor. I grew up going to the pediatrician and the dentist. And so those were the only doctors that I knew. So when I was looking into healthcare professions, that's what I looked into because it was all that I knew. And I was actually planning on going home for spring break and chatting with my parents about switching majors to something regarding health. And I was nervous about it because the business school at A&M is difficult to get into. And once you leave, you pretty much can't get back in. So I was nervous to have this conversation with my family for sure. And little did I know, when I went home, my mom had scheduled me an appointment with her new chiropractor that she just started seeing because her best friend recommended that she go whenever she hurt her back. She had classic, I threw out my back pain. And that's how she got involved with chiropractic. But what she told me was the more that she learned about chiropractic, the more she realized it wasn't just about pain, it was also about preventative care and whole body wellness. And she knew that I liked to exercise and I cared about my health. So she thought, I think you'd really get along with the doctors there. You should go. So I did, like any good daughter would do. I went, and I'm a very laid back person. So I went and hit it off with the associate doctor that was there at the time, who was also a graduate of Texas A&M. And so we had a lot to talk about. And after I got under care, I just became very intrigued with the fact that this was an option. It was conservative healthcare. And I had no idea about it until I was, 19 years old. I couldn't believe that. And so I started asking more and more questions to this doctor. And she was so kind to answer all of my many questions, and even met with me a month later on her lunch break when I came back home again from college to answer more of my questions, which were more directed towards the process of becoming a chiropractor and what is school like. And then that led me into changing majors to a kinesiology degree. That office offered me a part-time job and that summer. And so I came home, worked for them part-time, and just fell in love with chiropractic. And I love something that you really, really talk about, Dr. Glass, is connection, and how chiropractic is all about connection. And I could not agree with you more. It is shown to be true throughout my entire career, school career, and relationship with chiropractic in general, relationship with chiropractors, that connection is key, not only brain to body, but also the connection that we're making right now and beyond. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just really fell in love with it. And from then on, I decided to get on that track. And here we are.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect segue. Can you speak to like how you've developed this new project for yourself about pre-chiropractic, and then reflect back on if you could go back to your pre-chiropractic time where you had a lot more time, you had less class, what you would fill that time with, maybe a little more. Obviously, you had the job and you had exposures through that job, but was there anything more knowing what you know now that you wish you could go back and have done, but also speak to what you actually did do beyond the associate or the CA job.
Sure. So, pre chiropractic wise, that doctor that I mentioned, she who is a former Aggie, she asked me about the Texas A&M Chiropractic Society, which was a student club on campus at the time that she actually originally founded whenever she was in college, so many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me about it that very first time that I was in her office. And I had no idea. We have at A&M, there are thousands of student organizations. I was in the business school. I was very much removed from the healthcare side of things. But I told her that I'd look into it for her. And as I progressed into the story that I mentioned earlier of just becoming more and more interested, she really encouraged me after I made the switch to majors and to go, the DC route. She really encouraged me to restart that club if it was inactive. And sure enough, it was inactive. Students hadn't really kept up with it after she left, so it had been inactive for a couple of years. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did. I restarted it with a few other students, and it's still going today. In fact, many of those students come to Parker. Some go to Life. Some have gone to other schools. It's been really, really fruitful and neat to watch how that's grown and how it's given support to so many students beyond
Mm-hmm.
how it gave support to us at the time. So that was one way that I really focused and tried to help the pre-chiropractic community. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still involved with them. I'll still speak occasionally. I'll either travel to College Station and speak at a meeting, or I'll speak virtually. And then also through my Instagram, I've tried to be a really supportive, create a community, a chiropractic community is kind of what we say over there. I've tried to create a chiropractic community for not only students who are looking for pre-chiropractic advice, but also for just the general public to become educated on what the process looks like to become a doctor of chiropractic, but also what chiropractic is. And it's been interesting to kind of shift some of my content towards more educational, because now that I'm entering clinic and eventually practice, I want to make sure that I am educating those who want to learn more about just chiropractic in general. So those have been the two biggest ways that I've really tried to give back to the pre-chiropractic
Mm-hmm.
community. But then to answer your second question about some things that I would do, I always, always, always stress to pre-chiropractic students, whether they're confident that they want to go the DC route or if they're not confident, to shadow. So if they are not interested or don't have the time or are already working in a chiropractic office, I still highly recommend shadowing as many different offices as possible, because as you know, we all do it so different. And that's the beauty. That's the art right there. That is such a beautiful example of the art of chiropractic, is how different everybody does it. And it really helped. I really tried to prioritize that, still do on my breaks. I at least shadow one office, if not a couple. But it really helps guide either whether you want to pursue the profession as a whole, or helps you fine tune what you're interested in. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
huge recommendation, is shadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to starting chiropractic school, I also, a lot of people tell me not to study. I am not that personality type. So I had some former textbooks that were, anatomy textbooks and spinal anatomy textbooks. So I read through those occasionally if I was on a break at work, but nothing too heavy on the studying. And I would also pass that along as well as, if you're the type who you're fueled by preparing, then go for it. Pull out some anatomy, go over some muscle action, origin, and insertions, go over some spinal anatomy, study the nervous system, but don't overdo it, because like you said, Dr. Glass, you don't have a lot of time when you're in school other than what is going on in school. So enjoy time with your family. That's huge. Communicate with your family that what you're embarking on is a journey, and it is a difficult one at that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's doable. So make sure that your family and friends, the people closest to you, are aware of the difficulty of this journey, so that way they can best support you. I hope that
Mm-hmm.
answered your question.
Mm-hmm. I want to acknowledge that you're one of the only people that has focused on pre-chiropractic on social media right now. There's only about 200 and something posts, and a good portion of those are yours. I believe the guy, Dr. Stephen Gage, I think he's graduated now.
It
He
is.
also dedicated a lot of his focus and energy and I'm also passionate about it. And there's not really, beyond the three of us, there's not really a lot on the internet that you can look for pre-chiropractic and see one individual consistently posting in the name of pre-chiro or in the name of pre-chiropractic. So where did you get that vision, or was that tied into your marketing background? Why do you do it? Why do you consistently create material like you do? Do you see that there's a huge gap that needs to be filled? And if so, like, what do you think is possible if we're able to fill that gap and create a presence of pre-chiropractic on college campuses around the world?
You're speaking my language. I love it. Thank you so much for recognizing that, first off, and secondly, shout out to you as well. I think the inspiration came from a gap. So you really answered it very well. Whenever I started to shift into looking for chiropractic information, if you will, I had already, like I mentioned, looked into the MD route. I had also looked into the DO route, naturopath, before I found chiropractic. And when I looked into those professions, there were people on Instagram and on social media talking about their experience, talking about their journey. And it was so helpful. It was so valuable to see what they were going through, how they applied, what they would recommend, their study tips, truly what school was like. And then once I started learning more about chiropractic from my chiropractor and my mom, I did the same thing. I went to Instagram, the Google of now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found very little. I found Dr. Gage, well, now Dr. Gage. I found Steven. I'm trying to even think if I found anybody else at the time. I'm sorry if somebody watches this and they're like, I was there too, but I didn't find a lot at all. And while what was out there was so helpful, I still felt like there could be steps. There could be more steps to be taken. And I wanted to be a part of that because I firsthand experienced how beneficial it was within other professions. So I knew that it would be valuable. The value was there. I was sold on that already. There was no convincing me of the value of creating content like that. And so that was the inspiration. And it has just really shown to be an incredible way to tap into something that can be so big. And I truly believe that the more and more that we communicate chiropractic on social media, it doesn't necessarily have to be pre-chiropractic. Just communicating chiropractic in general will pique an interest, especially in those where I really think the gap is, Dr. Glass, is in those who just aren't aware of chiropractic. And I saw that hugely at A&M. We have a very strong pre-physical therapy model within the kinesiology department. And that was my major. That was where I switched to. And so part of starting the Chiropractic Society, one of our values was just communicating chiropractic and educating the campus on what chiropractic is. Because chiropractic is better than, chiropractic can sell itself, let's just say. It doesn't necessarily need me to sell it. But I do think that I can be a vessel of just making it an option for people. It'll sell itself. So I think that's where the gap is. At least that's where I've experienced it personally, is just the complete lack of education on it. So at the end of the day, students, if you're watching, or pre-chiropractic students, if you're watching, and you do feel compelled to share things on social media about your journey, go for it. It doesn't mean you have to have a whole page dedicated to it. Just starting to throw in little hidden gems, if you will, about the profession will pique people's interest. And it really has just proven, in my personal opinion, to be so fruitful, like I've mentioned before.
Yes, there's many directions we could go right now, but I'm curious if you could reflect on how the society that you had at Texas A&M was embraced by the community, or if you were able to make connections with the pre-PT club, and also if you could describe what made the pre-PT or the pre-med direction so attractive to students there. What resources did they offer? How did that presence and that like kind of awareness amongst the community trickle into a freshman in kinesiology program, just going to check that out basically because there's so many people in it that it just makes sense, right?
Yes, you're exactly right. Whenever I made the decision to switch my major, it's a process to do. And so it took me about a semester to get everything transitioned over. And I actually went and chatted with our I don't remember the exact title, but she was basically a pre professional school counselor. And I walked in her office and expected her to have some information on chiropractic school to give me some guidance. And she had absolutely none. And that was a huge wake up call. And that was just before I was planning on pursuing restarting the chiropractic society. And as soon as that happened to me, I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go chiropractic, I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to create a community on campus that hopefully will help students, because clearly, unfortunately, there isn't that help throughout the school itself. And I think that start having a club on campus is a good way to start, integrating into the school system, if you will. And
Hmm.
so that was one way. That was one wake up call for sure. But after we started the club, we did try to mingle with the pre-T society, pre-T club. I can't remember their exact name, and also the or the kinesiology club. And I would say we had good relationships with both of them. We did spend more time with the kinesiology club. They called it the Applied Exercise Physiology Club, which was a specific avenue through kinesiology. And that was my direct major actually. And we did certain fun events with them. So we spent time. We did like an exercise night one night. I think we went and got pizza another night. So we just did little events together. So it's
Hmm.
definitely doable if you're on campus. Students I'm talking to now, if you're on campus and you don't feel like there is a club or you don't have the resources to create a club, start getting involved with just other healthcare clubs on campus, and just be confident in who you are and what you stand for, and the direction you're going, and you can start making connections that way. um, but yeah, I would say that's a huge thing, is just starting to communicate with other people within healthcare on a
Hmm.
student level, because it starts there. It really does. It starts there for these pre-PT students and these pre-med students and these pre-DO students and these pre-nursing students to start familiarizing themselves with chiropractic and having a good understanding of what it is before they get in a profession. So that way they know that we're out there. They know we're a resource. They know who we are. They know what we're doing. That
Hmm.
is the biggest thing too.
Hmm.
A lot of healthcare professionals, from my experience, I know that there are some who are very well educated on chiropractic, and I'm so thankful for that. But a lot of them are not educated on specifically what we do. They may know who we are, but they don't know what we do. Therefore, they really don't know who we are if they don't know what we do. But that's another conversation.
Hmm.
So, students, you can really start making a difference with your friends right now who are pre-dental, PPEDS,
Hmm.
PT, on educating them on what the process is and what chiropractors do, and even encouraging them to shadow, go with you to shadow. I mean,
Hmm.
as students, you have more time than you think you do. So, maybe invite a friend to come shadow a chiropractor with you.
Hmm. I've thought a lot about this dynamic of where I was at when I was a kinesiology student, exercise science, pre-professional, and surrounded by 90 plus percent going in the pre-med, pre-allied health, pre-physical therapy direction.
Yep.
And I was undecided. I was one of the three out of 67 people in my senior year that were undecided. And I still hadn't really thought about chiropractic seriously at the end of my senior year. And that's partly what grew this passion within me to look back and say, wow, because when I did decide on chiropractic, I was already about to graduate, and I brought a chiropractor into the freshman kines like intro to kines
Nice.
class, and like 100 students lined up to shake this guy's hand and get his
Amazing.
pamphlets about chiropractic because they saw how related it was to their
Mm-hmm.
major. It's super relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a couple of things. One, providing students with materials that were already pre-created so that it looks professional, it's
Mm-hmm.
on point, it's on message, and they just need to support this message, or they just need to be congruent with this message, and helping them continue to have multiple materials come to them that helps them promote events, that helps them connect and relate to other clubs, that helps them
Yeah.
go to the guidance counselor and give the guidance counselor a specific template to show their
Yeah.
students, to go to the teachers or even to the administrators and say, this is why we created a pre-chiro club on this campus, because chiropractic is this, and this, and it's
Yes.
actually really helpful for students. What if we can have so many pre-chiro students on a campus that they go to the health center and they say, hey, we need to see some chiropractors. If this is a true
Hmm.
health center that supports the well-being of our student body, why are there no
Yeah.
chiropractors here? And
I
just
love
have
it.
students drive the revolution, or drive this inside out, like, growth of the presence of the profession is
Yeah.
going to be like one piece. I just want to share that with you and get you to reflect on
Mhm.
what's possible if
Mhm.
now we have multiple pre-chiro clubs on multiple campuses, maybe doing research on how having a pre-chiro club on that campus increases student well-being on that campus.
Mm. Ooh, you're giving me so many great ideas to give back to go back to the current president and chat with her about, which I'm sure she'll watch this. But yes, 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 yes. One thing I forgot to touch on in the question before is how well accepted we were on campus. So thanks for kind of bringing that back up and reminding me. But it started, so once I got plugged in with other students, it really started with at A&M we have to have an advisor, and they have to be on faculty or staff of it, Texas A&M. And so we went to one of our professors who was the advisor for the AEP club, which I mentioned, the kinesiology club on campus. And I'm so thankful that he was open to that. And he has learned, I think, so much about chiropractic by just saying yes to a couple of students who were so passionate about getting this started on campus. And we're still connected today. I actually, myself and Dr. Ken Thomas, who's our VP of External Affairs here at Parker, will travel down to A&M about once or twice a year and actually speak to his class. So students who are that undecided or pre-PT or pre-med, class, just to educate them on us and on chiropractic. And that's a really, really cool experience, which you mentioned. It was so cool to see all of those students. All of a sudden, it's like a little light bulb goes off of how impactful chiropractors can be and how that might impact their patients in the future. So that's a super special thing, near and dear to my heart as well. I love that we share that. But as a whole, I think we were really accepted on campus. I think that has a lot to do with A&M's culture, to be honest with you. A&M is a very they really promote student organizations and student leadership and community. And so we were very well accepted. And I'm so thankful for that. I never had a bad experience per se on campus. And so let that be encouraging to those listening of, you know, it's possible to start something ground up and really make an impact. And while I don't know the exact statistics on how it's impacting the well-being, I think that would be a really neat study to go down and see what that looks like, especially nationwide, if we could, encourage more students who are either on the fence, confident, or don't even know that chiropractic is an option for students and an option as a career path. So I encourage anybody who's on the fence about that to start trying to build a community of pre-chiropractic students on campus, because you can do so much with it. Like Dr. Gloss said, we would bring in chiropractors, we would bring in people from different chiropractic schools. So that way students were educated on the different processes and also the differences in the schools. And newsflash, if you're not aware of that, the schools are all very different, which is a great thing. I think there's good and bad, but I personally think it's a really cool thing. So yeah, there's so many things you can do with it. And if at the end of the day, if nothing else, you meet people who are interested in the same thing you're interested in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm just curious where you're at in school right now, and when you look back on your pre-Chiro journey, but also in your connection that you've maintained to that community and continuing to make materials, how has that really helped your student experience up until this point, and how you project it'll continue to help you?
Well, You know, I am so thankful for the community that I built at A&M, but also the community that I've built online. And well, let me first answer where I'm at in school, I guess. I was getting a little ahead of myself. I'm a trimester 6 student in the Doctor of Chiropractic program at Parker University in Dallas. And so at Parker, we have 10 trimesters total. And the trimesters are split up into 15 weeks. We have a 2-week break, except at Christmas time. We have a 3-week break. So that's kind of the breakdown. We have a fall, spring, and summer class. So you can apply to Parker and enter into any of those 3 classes. So that's where I'm at in school. And as far as the community goes and how it's helped me, it has helped so much. It has been so fun connecting with students prior to entering my time at Parker who were going to Parker. So I already had a little community kind of coming into school, and seeing them on campus and getting to, connect in person was so fun. I still actually will meet students who enter, who are entering the program now and who mention, oh, I follow you on Instagram, or, oh, I saw you on TikTok. And, that helped me so much. That warms my heart, because that's why we do this, Dr. Glass, that's why we do it. And it really means the world. And not only that, but also connecting with doctors has been awesome. I've gotten cool shadow opportunities through that. I've gotten to meet doctors in person at different seminars, which has been so fun. You create this little online community, and you feel like you know each other, and then you actually see each other, and you just hit the ground running from there, which is so fun. It kind of takes the awkwardness out of meeting, and you actually have things to talk about. And so that's been really fun as far as creating an online community goes.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you're one of the first examples ever of somebody who actually had a pre-Chiro experience and is now seeing the fruits of your pre-Chiro labor now that you're in school as a Chiro student. And you're right at that cusp where the way I'm contextualizing it is you're a pre-Chiro student, then you're a Chiro student, and then you're a student Chiro. And the student Chiro transition happens when you enter into the clinic, and now you're a student chiropractor taking care of people. And I'm curious where you're at with just like your preparation. Clinic is not far off. What are you doing? What kinds of skills are you practicing right now to prepare yourself for clinic?
Oh, I love this question, because you're right. I am very close to clinic. I think we're 200 and so days away from it. I'll be in the clinic in Dallas starting January of 2023. And I'll be there at least throughout the summer of 2023, depending on if I do an externship or not. But I'm very excited, and it will truly be such an honor to start serving and applying all of the knowledge that I've learned up to this point. Preparation wise, I'm doing as much as I can. 2022, at New Year's Day, I tried to write down my goals. And one of those goals, lots of the goals were devoted towards preparing for clinic. But the overarching goal was to be prepared for clinic. And I'm sure there's some clinic interns who are going to watch this and laugh and think, oh, you can, and probably you as well, like, oh, you can never be, exactly prepared for, clinic or practice even. But to be prepared as possible. And so some of the things that I'm doing are, obviously, I'm using and starting to reflect a lot on shadow experience. And I'm prioritizing my relationships with the doctors that I've made, whether that was online or going to visit them, or my mentors who I say grown up with, but grown up chiropractic wise with since, I started shadowing at the beginning. I've started to really reach out to them more and start asking different questions than I would have, 1 year ago. You don't know what you don't know at the time. And so the more you learn, the more questions you'll have. If you're not having questions, more and more questions with the more that you learn, I would start to reflect a little bit on that, because I'm a firm believer that we should always be learning. And so that's one way I'm really starting to ask more detailed questions regarding patient care. And, if this patient walks in, what do you do? And I'm asking that to multiple different doctors to get multiple, experiences, multiple inputs on. Also, our classes right now are devoted a lot towards patient care and patient-centered care and how to communicate with patients. So I'm not starting. I've always been paying attention in class, but I'm really trying to prioritize, focusing in on what they're saying and really listening and thinking about not just listening for a test, but thinking about, okay, how is this going to impact when a patient is sitting in front of me? And there is a difference, guys, in class whenever you're listening and you're learning for a test versus learning for practice. So whenever you can kind of shift your mindset, try to shift your mindset from day one, try to walk into class and before each lecture, try to center yourself around that. Okay, what I'm about to learn, as dense as it may be, as boring as it may be sometimes, how is this going to help me? And even if it doesn't seem like it will, I promise it all comes together, because even if it does seem dense, even if it does seem boring, it's probably going to be on boards. And what do you have to pass to become a chiropractor? Boards. So it all matters in the end. And then the third way is physical preparation. I'm going to be a chiropractor. I'm going to be adjusting people. And I'm going to be helping connect brain to body very, very soon. I'm already doing that in class, which is, a lot of fun. But I'm sure you can attest, Dr. Glass, it's very, very different than, life outside of adjusting in school is very, very different. So, my family has been so gracious and letting me palpate them since day one. I've been so thankful for them helping me along the way. And, what I'm learning in class palpation wise, taking that and really trying to understand differences body to body. Going to open labs has been amazing. Our full spine adjusting course, we rotate from doctor to doctor. So we get different feedback. We don't always hear the same feedback every week. We don't always have the same eyes on us every week. We're forced to change partners in our full spine adjusting labs. And we've been in a full spine adjusting lab since last trimester, so try 5. But prior to that, we've been in adjusting courses. Full spine adjusting at Parker, those labs, they're more of the putting it together, not technique specific. They're kind of like, okay, you've been, exposed to all of these different techniques. Now let's start putting it together and creating your own art, and we'll give you feedback on that. And so that's been so helpful. Students, I would really encourage you guys, if you're a chiropractic student now or a pre-chiropractic student, when you get into those adjusting labs, it can be intimidating because everybody adjusts so differently. Some people are at different levels on specific parts of the body. I would really encourage you to go in with a super open mind and try to take the stance and set the expectation that you're not coming from a judgmental place, and just expect better of others, that they're not coming from a judgmental place either. And hopefully, if you don't, at Parker, we have really amazing instructors who are, they take away the scariness, at least for me, they have. They've really, allowed me to just ask the questions and do the things that may feel weird or that I'm unsure of, and then coach me from there. And it's been really, really rewarding. So hopefully, I'm sure at other schools it's the same way. But yeah, just being active, attending outside seminars. I've really tried to narrow down kind of the way that I want to practice and starting, to refine my art, if you will. And I know that that's a lifelong process, but I've started to take more of a focus to it, because I think your intent is everything, and your perspective on things. So I've really tried to narrow down how I think I want to practice and the population that I think I want to serve. So I've tried devoting more time and energy towards learning about that population, which for me is probably going to be families, pediatric pregnancy and beyond. I always tell people I think the more correct way to say this is multi-generational, but the way that I like to say it is I want to see great-grandbabies and their great-grandparents and everybody in between is kind of how I like to say it. So those are some of the ways that I've really tried to focus on preparing.
Amazing. Can you speak a little bit about that focus that you have right now? What are you specifically focused on skill-wise
Yeah.
um, in these last couple of months, and also as you look forward to the next couple of weeks and months?
Yeah. So specifically, I have a post about how I train in the gym chiropractically. And so I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize already if what I'm about to say is all over the place, but lots of things are popping into my head. Specifically, physically, I like to train in the gym also for the profession. for adjusting, as well as outside the gym, right? In labs, palpating. My husband, oh, poor guy. If you're a spouse of a chiropractor, you know how it is. And shout out y'all. But so I like to practice also in the gym. And so ways that I do that are just different drills, trying to accentuate fast twitch muscles. And like I said, I have a post about specifically how I'm doing that. But balance also I found is a huge thing. If you think about how we're, the positions that we're getting in side posture, even, adjusting thoracics, whether it's supine or prone. And I'm sorry if this means nothing to you. One day it will if you're listening. But having a strong core, having a stable center to center yourself to be able to deliver that adjustment, no matter what the environment is, no matter, who the patient is, their body type, no matter what shoes you're wearing, so that way you can be confident in delivering an adjustment. So I would say core, stability, and balance. Also, fast twitch. And then there's two more things: challenging the mind while I'm working out. And an example of that, I incorporated a lot with balance. So I might stand on like a Bosu ball where there's that flat end on one side and then the Bosu on the other side. And I will stand on either one of those sides. It just depends on how, where you're at balance wise. And I'll try to do different things with my upper body. So just like moving in different planes of motion where I'm having to really focus and incorporate like the mental aspect. So I find that balance is a good way to like challenge my mind as well. And then the other way of doing that is soft hands, or my last way of training is soft hands. And my mentor, he has always told me that soft hands are confident hands. Soft and slow hands are confident hands, and versus fast and pokey. And again, if that means nothing to you, one day it will. And so I've tried to apply that in the gym. So if I'm in a plank on my forearms, I could be like this, gripping for life, all of my tensions in my hands. Instead, I try to bring awareness to that. My whole body's under tension, but I try to bring awareness to soft hands. And I found that through my palpation and through my adjusting in class, that has transferred truly. Whenever I'm in a side posture position, whenever I'm squatted down to adjust a cervical and my entire body's under tension because I'm in a squat and gravity's pushing down on me, and you know how squat is. I mean, whatever position you're in when your whole body's under tension, but my hands need to be soft. My hands need to be slow for the palpation, fast for adjustment. Don't get me wrong, there's fast aspect to it, but they need to be soft. So that way that patient on the table isn't feeling the rest of the tension that's flowing through my body. So that's a really specific one that I've just kind of, I don't want to claim that I've created it, but it's not something that I heard from anybody else. I just started to really reflect on what my mentors have been telling me all these years and think, okay, how do I actually use that? But not only use it, how do I get good at it? And that comes with training. So those are the really, really specific things that I do in the gym that I found transfer very well. And again, there's very specific drills that I do. It's hard to explain through here, but I have a post on my Instagram about it. And but the other specific things are, like I said, just really going to my mentors and shadowing and paying attention to their adjusting. That's a huge one. If they do something different than I would have done, I ask them, okay, why did you do it that way? And their answers vary from, well, it fits better with my body type, to it fits better with their body type, to everything in between, to both, to, whatever it may be. I mean, you just learn so much. The more you learn, the more questions you'll have, and the more you'll learn by asking those questions and getting answers. So that would be the second thing that I would say, aside from physically training, is being more in tune with, when you're shadowing, watching doctors and how they're adjusting, but not just watching, asking them, why are you doing that way? And how can you coach me through that adjustment? What are you feeling for? It's okay to ask that. I think students think that when they shadow, they have to know it all already. You don't have to know it all. In fact, you probably shouldn't know it all in school. It's a learning process. And so start getting comfortable with asking questions.
Mm. Some of the highlights from this conversation have been when you enter a classroom, think about what feeds you to pass the classes and take the tests and get ready for boards, and then what feeds you in preparing for practice and serving other people and educating people on information that's relevant. And then the
Yes.
other one that you just mentioned was how you train your body, how important it is to be physically fit, but also be connected to your hands. And
Yes.
I would say that the softer your hands are, the more you can listen. And so much
Yes.
of chiropractic palpation is about listening. And then, yeah, that last piece right there. So let's transition a little bit. Talk about kind of what kinds of questions that you're developing within yourself these days. Do you have any questions for me? If we only have
Ooh,
like 4 minutes left,
sure.
or 5 minutes left, we can turn this really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for offering that. One of my biggest questions for mentors right now is what keeps you connected patient to patient with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and also connecting with them?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I can go into a little bit more detail to clarify exactly what I'm asking if you
Mm-hmm.
need that, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but how do you maintain that like centeredness and delivering, the best quality adjustments person to person, really the consistency? How do you build that consistency
Mm-hmm.
patient to patient?
I think that it comes down to your skill set with adjusting to keep that consistency, and you have your parameters that you're looking for. You have your pre-check, your post-check, you have your palpation, and the way that you find subluxations and the way you adjust, and then how you're communicating with people throughout that becomes
Mm,
pattern behavior.
okay.
But as far as like zooming out and how do you actually keep people connected to the process, I think you have to build structure within your practice so that there's an education component to that, whether it's through email, whether it's in person, and you have a loose framework for like in the beginning of care, you're walking them through certain concepts or you're relating to them about certain things, learning more about them, continuing to learn about them more than just day one, day two, but always finding curiosity in the visits that you have with people. And I think that that makes up the bulk of how you enter each visit interaction, right? Because you're not going to be able to remember everything about everybody, and you're going to have to just focus on in the present moment. I'm adjusting somebody, I'm maybe educating them about something, and I'm also learning more about them. I think the more you stay curious about those three things and kind of develop some framework outside of that visit to support what you do in that visit, outside of
Mhm.
the visit, that's going to be the thing that keeps that continuity going.
Oh, I love that. And thank you for sharing that. You answered even more questions that I had with that one answer. So that's amazing. One other question that I have, because I know we're running short on time, is if you could tell somebody who had no idea what chiropractic is, if you could define chiropractic for them, how do you define chiropractic?
Whew. So yeah,
Not to put you
chiropractic.
on the spot.
No, it's all good. I mean, chiropractic is an amazing profession, first and foremost, that's very young. It's only 125 years old.
Mm,
It was started here in the States, but it has roots in other parts of the globe as far as natural approaches to healing, health, and well being. As opposed to fighting sickness, it's promoting health, as opposed to trying to come from the outside in and provide a external treatment. It's actually non-therapeutic in that it's just boosting the function of the internal organism, like the person themselves, to adapt to their environment. And that might sound like going all over the place, but it basically is we're looking for misalignments in the spine that are interfering between brain and body connection, adjusting them, allowing the body, restoring that connection, and allowing the body to do its thing, allowing the body to reach its optimal state, which is natural health,
mhm.
and maintain that health. And as chiropractors, we get to do that every day with the people we take care of. And you can travel anywhere in the world with these two hands and provide
Yeah.
value for any community you decide to settle down in. And that to me is the most beautiful thing that we have to offer to humanity is no matter where you're at in the world, you can actually develop a skill that is helpful for your family, your community,
Mm.
and is really needed and is not present right now in a big way. So
Yes.
there's so much that goes into that answer, but
Yes.
I could go on and on. But
I
anyway,
appreciate it.
I kind of want to keep this conversation open for a potential second conversation. I really like the way that you go into details, and
Thank you.
thank you. If we could work together in the future as we develop and build this thing called pre-chiropractic, I'm
Mm.
all about that, and I just appreciate you so much for taking the time. So thank
Of
you.
course. Thank you, Dr. Glass. And anybody, please feel free to reach out to me at any point. I'm happy to help. It's why I started my Instagram in the first place. It's at destination.dc, which stands for Destination Doctor of Chiropractic. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Glass. I appreciate all the information that you shared with me. And I would love to support you and this pre chiropractic community in any way possible in the future.